Hey, everybody, welcome back. And I have with me again my good friend, Kurt Schnakenberg. Kurt, thanks for coming back on the show.
My pleasure. Appreciate the opportunity to be back here.
Yeah, it's kind of you to do this. We spoke about a year ago on air about ADBM, your agency that you started. It's now been what, a year and a half ago or so?
I'm at 1.4 years.
Yeah, okay, so 1.4 years. What I wanted to do here is just get a quick pulse check on how you guys are doing, some of the things you've learned, and some of the maybe refinements that are happening. I thought this would be an interesting way to kind of keep up with a business that's new. So give us the quick big picture update.
Coming into this calendar year, wrapping this one up, we're going to be at about 300% growth, which when I put it that way, feels really good. I'm not hitting the metrics I was hoping to, right? At that early stage, you need exponential growth, and I'm missing out pretty substantively on where I had hoped to be, but we're there. And I guess looking at it objectively, that's still quite the accomplishment. So I'm happy-ish.
It's that gap in the gain mindset. I don't know if you've read that book by Dan Sullivan. Yeah.
Yep.
For those listening who haven't, the fundamental idea is, instead of looking at your goal you set for yourself a year ago and where you are and seeing this huge gap, because we almost always are setting goals that are more ambitious than we can hit, you can kind of look at like, well, where was I a year ago versus here? And like you said, 300% growth is still great. I have to remind myself of that same thing all the time because, yeah, I'm never hitting all the goals I wanted.
I had a meeting with my team, not coming down on them, but just like, hey guys, we're missing this. And one of the guys is like, Kurt, hold on. We're growing at like 40% every quarter. So chill. Like it's not, I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Back when we spoke, I think the goal, I was just listening to the episode, the goal was 150 placements a month, which I don't know if that goal has changed because the business has changed, but how close did you guys end up getting to that?
We're going to be at about 40 at the end of the year, right? So like a third of what I was working towards. But again, like I came into the year at like 11. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. So what did you learn about, there's something I always like to reflect on when I'm looking back at goals and, what I did and didn't hit. What did you learn about those goals, and like maybe your goals are smarter for next year because of it? Anything there that stood out to you?
Looking at it, obviously we're well short of where I would have hoped to be, but I don't actually think I necessarily made a mistake on setting it. I'm a big fan of setting these audacious goals and chasing for it. And like we've still achieved something pretty substantive. And, if I look forward and extrapolate forward, if we can maintain this growth trajectory, we're still going to be pretty sizable. We're across the $1 million a year annual recurring revenue threshold when, at the end of the year. Like we're doing these things that feel good. I don't think goals necessarily are like, I think it was motivating enough. I think as we exit the stage of, we're still going to be in this hyper growth mode, but we're not a startup per se anymore, or soon not to be. So I think it's more important now for me to diminish the goals to make them more achievable. But I think at the early onset, having this big audacious number sitting out there wasn't a mistake. I think it was motivating, and I just needed to be adaptive. Like as we get close to it, I'm like, hey guys, we're not going to beat ourselves up because we missed this like wild and crazy goal. But it wouldn't have been as much fun to set a goal much more conservative and then just eke over it. At that stage, it's not rewarding.
I think that makes sense. It also makes sense because it kind of gives the team a bit of an impression of this. I know this is where we're at, and it's small and tiny, and it's got a long way to go. But like, this is what I want to build. It's a little bit of like an inspiration just in having those big goals, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
You're still doing the sales role, right?
Less. I'm starting to do less of it, and so I have someone who's been writing roughly for 6 months, like second chair with me, and learning and picking it up, and having him in it has been a positive and a negative, right? Like it's making me be more deliberate in the messaging because I can wing it, right? Like I know what we do well enough. I don't have to prep for sales calls very much. I can jump on and I'm pretty good. Where with him, we've had to much more be processed, which is a good thing. We're growing up a little bit.
Totally. Yeah, that's a huge shift, like moving from founder-led sales to bring somebody on who does it. You're right, it's challenging in ways because they have to have more things documented and more rules and more structure. Also, what I find challenging is you get less direct feedback from customers, like it's not quite as frequent at least, and you're often getting the feedback filtered through team members, which has an effect. Have you seen that yet? Or maybe what are some of the things you did learn in this first year around sales that have kind of like taught you a lot about how to do this?
There's a discipline to sales that needs to just be continually done, right? Like you can't take your foot off the gas. You just have to keep doing it. You're having a busy week with lots of things blowing up. So what? Go sell, right? You're having a great week where you hit your numbers. So what? Go sell. It's like this always needs to be happening because it's a momentum game. The second the momentum slows, it's twice as hard just to get back where you were. In the trenches for us, at least at our scale, it's not about marketing or branding or these things. It's just in the trenches, getting where our clients are and being in front of them quickly and consistently has been a lot of effort. Working with Charles, who's my sales guy, as he begins taking over. In every decision I make, I look at three different levels, right? There's the what we're going to do, sort of, so I consider that the strategic level. Then there's the tactical level of how we're going to do it. And then there's the actual implementation of it. So the people doing the thing. And so I started handing off early to him early he got the doing the thing, right? Where I was having him there in sales. The tactical, I'm starting to transition some of the tactical over to him. So I'm like, hey, look, here's what you're selling. You can't change what you're selling. Here's our core product. Here's who you're selling it to, all these things. But how you deliver this message and how you sell, giving him some autonomy in there. There's been mistakes for sure. But it's been worth it. I gave him my playbook and I'm like, here's my playbook. Here's how I tactically did it. Now pivot it to your voice. And from a motivation standpoint, I think he's trying much harder, doing more. And again, there's never enough issue of effort with him. He's an amazing person. I'm assuming he's going to watch this anyway. But like, as I give Charles more space to do it his way from a tactical standpoint, there's more buy-in, there's more motivation. Yeah. It's more effective because he just cares more. And
totally.
It's like when you transition sales off the founder, how do you keep the passion in it, right? How do you keep someone caring? And to your point, getting the feedback, working with the team. And so I also have now, Charles, my sales guy, has weekly meetings with our fulfillment team. Cutting me out of the picture, they speak. So he's like, hey guys, I heard this from a prospect that this sucks. Or I talked to one of your clients and they said they're unhappy with this. Like I cut myself out, not because I don't want to hear it, but because I said, you guys need to be able to move in the trenches on this. And then if there are themes, I need to hear about it. I need it rolling back up to me if there's a theme and we need to address our what. But as long as it's tactical and implementation, I empower them to do it. It's when it elevates to what, when I need to get pulled in.
Makes a lot of sense. And I've found that same experience with the right kind of employee, with the right employee in the right seat, giving them more control and autonomy over how they do their job and how they deliver the results is hugely motivating. I think it's interesting. Sometimes with the wrong person, you could tell they just get lost instantly. And then with the right person, it's a big difference. It's night and day difference. You could see that they go, oh, this is going to be fun. I get to like choose my path. That's maybe one of those sort of pivot points where you can decide if somebody is really a good fit for this role or not, is you give them those kind of, you pick your own adventure, and if they get completely lost or don't do anything, it's probably a sign they're not quite right for this.
You and I have discussed it before. Like, you can't have a team of all A+ players. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Or a team of all entrepreneurs. You and I serving on a board together with a bunch of entrepreneurs, we know how this is. It can be very difficult to get a bunch of visionaries in a room and have them match up on anything, much less work together to pull an organization forward. And I think that same kind of thing's true at companies. Look, like same with both my businesses. There's team members that are fantastic at their job and their role, but they're never going to be a visionary leader of anything. It's just not their role, not what they want to be. So, a year ago when we talked, you were focused very heavily on the buildings industry. And I've always loved businesses that niche down from the beginning. Is that still true? Is it still very much focused on that niche, or have you started to broaden a little bit? Like, where are you at there?
we've made mistakes on this, and I'm in right before this call or this meeting, I was on a meeting with my team discussing just this. So we have two options as we grow, right? And I'm not someone like 20% annual growth over and over is amazing. It doesn't excite me though, right? Like at this stage, what I'm looking for here, like really trying to amplify it quick. And so resting and just sitting back and taking some organic gains is not really an option. And so we're looking at this and saying, like, do we sell outside of that niche? And so we when we spoke before, we only worked with staff in the Philippines. We now have staff in Mexico, and we're looking at other countries. We're expanding outward, right? So we've expanded there. And I'm having this debate of like, so our core product is this ongoing staffing solution, right? Where we pay someone, our clients pay us, and we make a markup on their labor. We've explored doing a direct hire model where we get like a recruitment fee where it's not ongoing, which can generate cash, but doesn't necessarily generate long-term value or returns. And so we have backed off of some of that, but we're looking and saying to really grow, do we sell outside of our niche, which means going and getting new clients, or do we look at our existing clients and say, what else can we offer them? And so we're on the fence right now. We're most likely going to proceed with it. We've done a few trials and it's gone well of actually doing some domestic recruiting for our clients. So, and more not at the executive level, more at the entry level or junior, but saying, hey, if you're looking for a $60,000, $70,000 a year domestic employee, instead of you posting a job in Indeed and filtering the thousands of resumes, and even with their AI tools, it's still
a lot of work,
right? Like our team can do that. We'll do it offshore. We'll do it at a lower cost, and we can the clients where we're adding team members with them, we could do the same domestically, and that's the product creep that we're currently debating.
How do you think you'll make that decision? Where's the pivot point where you say, yeah, this is definitely a new line that we want to open versus that was an experiment and we're going to get back off it?
We're going to demo it with a couple clients. We've done it for my other company. It worked. We're going to demo it with a few paying clients, see what they think, see how they like it, and really let the client voice speak the most. Like, what's our core issue that we're solving for our client? And for us, it's staffing issues, right? Like, this is an industry where people don't go to school for it necessarily. It's tough to find people with experience in this industry. And so do our clients really care if it's domestic, offshore? Like if they allow remote, right? Once that thesis is established, do they really care where they're sitting? Not really. I mean, they only do if it impacts cost, right? Like someone in New York City versus Manila, huge difference in cost. So they care about cost, but beyond that, they don't. And so we're solving the same problems if we're giving them domestic staff. And my team has experience recruiting and placing people both in Canada and the United States before. So I have the skill set within my team. We could easily flip that switch and turn it on. So we're going to demo it with a few clients, see how it goes. If it generates new revenues, great, but more important is doesn't harm our existing revenue. If it doesn't erode our other core product, then it's likely we'll do it.
I agree. That's the way to me, that is the easiest or most logical path to growth, is sell more things to the same types of clients that solve very similar needs, but they have just slightly different ways that they want to accomplish that thing, right? And I think that makes a lot of sense. I do agree, though, the challenge every time you add a new service line is the business just gets more complicated to sell things and operate. Like somebody has to make that decision. A client comes to us and says they need to hire. Are we talking domestic or are we talking international? Are we going to ask them or are we going to tell them what we should do? Yep. Like, is it consultative or is it like we're order takers here? And like, I'm like, I feel this because I'm going through this. I've been through this. Like, I know I'm going to go through it again. Like, it's hard, man. And I don't have an answer. I just know it's a struggle. So yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If I accepted 20% annual growth, or even at this stage, 50% annual growth, I wouldn't have to be even exploring this. But, it's not what we're looking for.
Yeah. So still pretty narrowly niched, even though there's maybe some, experimenting in some of these other areas. What do you think has worked really well in this first year and a half of the business? What have you done really right that you would always do over again?
So this was a thing we did that I think is important. And this is part of why I didn't achieve the growth goals we wanted to, is that About 6 months into the year, we started seeing churn, like heavier churn than we wanted, which meant our product wasn't good enough, right? We weren't doing a good enough job onboarding people, screening, getting them onboarded, checking in, navigating issues with our clients. Like we weren't paying enough attention to that. And so we pumped the brakes. I said, hold on, we're going to not completely stop, but like our focus right now is to diminish churn. So we added infrastructure to support these things. We added expense to keep the churn down. And again, there's always going to be some. I mean, anyone who's like, oh, I
Sure.
never lose a client. I mean, that's not true,
It
right?
means you're
Like
not charging enough.
basically, right? Like, we accept that, but our churn was much higher than we wanted. So we stopped, said, okay, let's fix our churn. So we spent about 4 months getting our churn back down to a place we were, so a third of the year roughly, where we were comfortable with it. Then and then a couple months ago we started flipping the switch back to keep growing again. And so it doesn't mean we stopped growing during that time. It just wasn't our core focus.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can't do everything at once. This is one of those things that I think like when you look at a business in the abstract, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, here's 5 things you should do to go improve your business. But like rubber meets the road. And how do we do 5 things at once? We're like, 5, 10 full-time people and like we have a day-to-day operation to run. Like it's not simple in practice to just, turn the screws and change what you're doing to improve retention or to go drive 5 more sales calls a week. Like it takes a concerted effort. And I think when you try to do too many of those things, I mean, as you and I both have talked about this plenty, like that's where you get screwed because you can't. And so you end up doing everything terribly. And that's not the way to go. Anything you would have done sooner if you had, could kind of have back at it and like, be back at it, or anything you would have done from the get-go that you're now doing better?
I don't think so. I think, a lot of it early on, again, there's lessons that's learned with every misstep. And so having that context and that filter, I mean, I could pick up a Harvard Business Review magazine, right, and read like every article and be like, that's amazing. That's right. That's right. I wish I had done that. But like, like you said, when everything's important, nothing's important. So I think we've generally done a pretty good job. One thing I did midway through the year was a good friend of mine, well, both of ours, Mark Beelan, we had a discussion around how much, if I invest $1 in my business, what's the desired return, right? And so
Yeah.
I was like, between like if I can double it, I'm happy. And he's like, not high enough. I'm like, what do you mean? That's like anyone can double money. That's a great return. He's like, no, it's not, because if you take $1 and put it in, you're gonna miss, and some of the dollar's gonna go to zero. So if that happens, the next one needs to hit just for you to break even, right? And he's
Right.
like, you need to take more money out if you're investing. You need to get a reward, and then you need to fund the next investment, and you need to fund the ones that are going to, break even. So he's like, 4x. 4x should be
Yeah.
your minimum return. And I've run a business for 20 some years, and and I'm looking like, man. So I've increased the level at which I want to see. Like I look at it from a high level, I did that, but in my like day to day when I was making strategic choices, like do we sign up for this? Do we try this? I wasn't looking for that high enough return. And so now everything we did, I created an income statement for my team, like a simplified income statement that it's sort of a P&L that splits up $1. So it says, guys, if we get $1 of revenue, here's what it does. And so when we're talking about any investment or anything, it's all in cents of that dollar, right? And if I had done that earlier, I would have gotten better buy-in from my team to make smart choices.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. I'm having Mark on this show in a few weeks, so I will have to ask him a similar kind of line of questioning and get where his head's at there. Well, great. This has been awesome to catch up, Kurt. I always love hearing how things are going. And I'm glad that it's going so well in relative terms. And I say relative terms because, like, look, first couple of years of a small business, there's a high failure rate. It's really rough. You can get stuck for a long time, and it sounds like you guys are making progress. So, thanks for doing that. Last question I have for you, because I always ask this. Any book you've read in the last year that's helped you out or kind of gotten you unstuck anywhere or really impacted you, maybe?
Man, I read so much and churn through so many different books.
But none of them stood out.
They kind of bleed together at a certain
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
right?
I know
Like
what you mean. Yeah.
again, from some mutual friends of ours, I got really pushed into the flywheel concept, the good to great flywheel. And I've read that book dozens of times, but like the flywheel was not one that was not one of the things I attached myself to. So then I went out and read the sort of breakout book just on the flywheel. And then I read a Harvard Business Review article on the sales flywheel, which I thought was probably one of the ones where I took the most direct, actionable things away. There's so much in HBR that's like irrelevant for us entrepreneurs. It's like great for a multinational Fortune 500. But that one to me resonated with the entrepreneurial space.
Cool. I'll have to check that out then. Well, Kurt, as always, thanks for coming on. We will post links to all your stuff in the show notes, and maybe we'll chat again in another year and see how things are going.
Cool. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you for watching this episode of Retain Trust. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube. It takes 2 seconds and it helps others find out about the show. And if you have questions or suggestions for a future episode, leave a comment. See you next time.